A terrified young woman runs through the storm, clutching her coat against the freezing rain. Behind her, headlights flash, tires screech. Her breath comes out in gasps. Then she spots a black luxury car idling by the curb. Without thinking, she rushes toward it. "Please, can I hide in your car?" she pleads, banging on the window. Inside sits a man with sharp eyes and a scar running down his jawline. His voice is deep, measured. "Get in," he says quietly. That's how Sophie Turner met Luca Romano, a man she never imagined would change her life forever. Just hours before that storm, Sophie was packing what little she owned into a small duffel bag. She had spent years trapped in fear, surviving an abusive relationship that drained her of strength and hope that she'd always been kind. The kind of woman who still smiled at strangers, who'd give her umbrella to someone else even if she'd get soaked. But that night, she was done running from pain, from control, from everything that told her she wasn't enough. Her plan was simple: escape. But destiny had other ideas. Meanwhile, across the city, Luca Romano sat in the back seat of his car, rain drumming against the tinted glass. He was a man who commanded fear, his name whispered in the shadows of power. Yet tonight, he wasn't thinking about business or revenge, that he was thinking about the emptiness that had crept into his life. The people around him bowed out of fear, not respect. Money had bought silence, not peace. He was the kind of man who had everything and yet nothing that truly mattered. When Sophie appeared out of the darkness, pounding on his window with trembling hands, something unexpected stirred in him. Not suspicion, not calculation, but instinct, a quiet whisper of humanity he thought he'd lost long ago. "Thank you," she whispered, voice cracking. Luca didn't answer at first. He just handed her his jacket, his gaze softening as he noticed the bruises along her wrists. "You're safe now," he said finally. "No one's going to hurt you." And for the first time in years, Sophie believed it. Before we continue with this incredible journey, I spent countless hours researching and crafting this story to bring you something truly meaningful. If stories like this touch your heart, and you want to see more acts of kindness that restore faith in humanity, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. It means the world to me and helps these important stories reach others who need to hear them. The car was silent except for the steady rhythm of the rain against the windshield. Sophie sat still, clutching Luca's coat tightly around her shoulders. Her eyes darted toward the rearview mirror, half expecting to see the headlights of her ex's car appear again. Luca noticed the fear in her eyes. He had seen fear before on the faces of enemies, traitors, and men who knew they'd crossed the wrong line. But this was different. It wasn't guilt or weakness. It was survival. "Do you want me to take you somewhere safe?" he asked quietly. Her voice trembled. "I don't have anywhere safe." Something shifted in him. For a man used to commanding hundreds, it was strange how this one fragile voice could undo his entire world of control. He took her to a small cabin he owned on the outskirts of the city, a place no one knew existed. It wasn't luxury, but it was warm, quiet, and hidden. When they arrived, Sophie hesitated at the door. "Why are you helping me?" she asked softly. Luca's answer came after a long pause. "Because someone once helped me when I didn't deserve it." He didn't explain more, and she didn't press. But in that brief exchange, trust began to bloom, fragile yet real. Over the next few hours, Luca found himself doing things he hadn't done in years: making tea, finding a blanket, checking if someone was comfortable. Small things, human things. And Sophie, she kept apologizing for being there, for existing, until Luca finally said, "Stop saying sorry for surviving." Tears filled her eyes, but she smiled through them. That smile, the first he'd seen on her face, hit harder than any bullet he'd ever faced. It was the beginning of something neither of them could explain. A broken woman finding safety in the arms of a man the world feared. And a powerful man rediscovering his humanity through the courage of a stranger. Sometimes the people who seem the strongest are the ones hurting the most inside. Have you ever met someone who changed your view of kindness forever? Share your thoughts below. I read every single comment. Days turned into weeks. The storm that had once raged outside was now replaced by quiet mornings. Sophie helping in the kitchen, Luca reading the newspaper in silence. Slowly, they began to share pieces of their worlds. Sophie spoke about her past, about the man who made her feel small, the career she had to abandon, And the dreams she still kept hidden behind her fear. Luca rarely talked about his. But when he did, it was always short. "I've done things I can't undo," he'd say. And Sophie would look at him not with judgment, but with the kind of understanding that only comes from pain. She started tending to the flowers outside the cabin, bringing color back to a place that had always been gray. And one evening, Luca returned from the city to find a simple dinner waiting, a small candle burning on the table. "You didn't have to," he said. "I know," she smiled softly. "But maybe we both need a reason to feel normal again." In that moment, something changed. For the first time in years, Luca felt peace. The man who built his empire through power and fear was being disarmed by gentleness. But peace never lasts long for men like Luca. One night, as he drove Sophie to the nearby market, two black SUVs appeared in the rearview mirror. His expression hardened instantly. "Luca? What's wrong?" she asked, fear returning to her voice. "Nothing," he said calmly, eyes scanning the mirrors. "Just hold on." When they finally lost the tail, Luca pulled over. Sophie saw his trembling hands on the steering wheel. "You're not just some businessman, are you?" she whispered. His silence said everything. That night, the fragile trust they built began to shake. Sophie wondered who she had trusted, while Luca wondered if his world would destroy the only good thing he'd found in years. But deep down, both knew. Kindness isn't about safety, it's about choice. After that night, Sophie tried to distance herself, fear and confusion warring inside her. She couldn't believe she had sought safety in the arms of danger, but Luca wouldn't let her walk away unprotected. Not when he knew her ex was still out there. Searching, he made a vow. No one would ever hurt her again. The once cold mansion began to change, plants by the windows, laughter in the halls. Sophie started working again, helping Luca's men with books and paperwork, teaching them simple kindness in ways Luca never could. One afternoon, she found him sitting quietly in the garden. "You're different now," she said softly. He looked at her, almost smiling. "Maybe I finally found a reason to be." Her presence had begun to heal the scars he never showed. And for Sophie, she had found safety, not in walls, but in a heart she never expected to trust. But peace, once again, was short-lived. Sophie's ex found her. He stormed into Luca's club one night, dragging her by the arm, screaming her name. Before Luca's men could react, the man raised his hand to strike her, and then Luca stepped in. His voice was calm but cold. "You touch her again, and you'll never raise your hand to anyone." He didn't have to say more. The look in his eyes was enough. The man was escorted out, broken not by violence, but by the power of someone who chose restraint. That night changed everything. Sophie realized that monsters can choose mercy and broken people can still be kind. She stayed not because she needed protection, but because she saw the man Luca wanted to become. And Luca? For the first time in his life, he felt free. Months later, a woman knocked on the mansion door, terrified, running from someone. Sophie opened it, looked into her frightened eyes, and whispered the same words Luca once did. "Get in. You're safe here." A year later, everything had changed. The mansion that once echoed with silence now rang with laughter and life. Sophie had rebuilt herself, stronger, wiser, and fearless. She'd started a small foundation that helped women escape abusive relationships, giving them shelter and hope. And standing beside her at every charity event was the same man who once ruled the city through fear, Luca Romano. But now, people whispered his name with respect. "I used to believe power meant control, but I learned the greatest power we have is the choice to be kind." The crowd applauded softly, some wiping away tears. Sophie looked at him, her eyes filled with quiet pride. Behind the scenes, Luca had dismantled much of his old empire, turning his resources toward rebuilding lives instead of destroying them. His men, once feared, now worked as volunteers, drivers, protectors, mentors. The transformation wasn't perfect, but it was real. Sophie smiled. "Did you ever think kindness could be this powerful?" Luca chuckled. "You showed me that mercy doesn't make you weak. It makes you human." Narrator. Their lives had become proof that compassion can bloom in the darkest soil, that love, when born from kindness, can heal even the most damaged souls. Today, Sophie and Luca continue their work helping others who once had nowhere to turn. And every year on the same rainy night they first met, they drive through the city, offering rides to those walking alone in the dark, because they both know one act of kindness can change everything. Stories like this remind us that even in a world filled with pain, there's still light, born from compassion, courage, and unexpected grace. You never know how far one simple act can ripple, how deeply it can save. If this story touched your heart, please like this video. It helps others discover these moments of hope. And don't forget to subscribe for more true and inspired stories that restore faith in humanity. Most importantly, look around you today. Someone near you might need a reason to believe in kindness again. Be that reason, because you have the power to change someone's entire world.